Hey everyone, Mr. MCA here. This is a guide for round 6 of the 2023 Manufacturers Cup taking place at Watkins Glen with any Group 3 car. Let's go over to the race details, where it is a 15 lap race for those in GT2 and 3, 20 lap race for those in GT1, where you have to use both the racing soft and racing hard tires. Fuel is at ×1, so fuel is not an issue, but tire is at ×3, so tire wear will be an issue, and you can adjust your brake balance. And again, you have to use the racing soft and racing hard tires so you don't get a 1-minute penalty after the race ends. So let's go straight over to the race strategies. And for GT2 and 3 and a majority of GT1 players, this race will be a one-stop race. So if you're starting in the front, you can start on the racing soft tires to try to get away from everyone else, and then switch over to the racing hard tires once your tires are just about to expire. Or if you're starting in the middle and back, you can start on the racing hard tires to try to get rid of the slower tire compound first, especially burn up a bit of fuel along the way. That way, when you go on over to the racing soft tires, you have a bit less fuel in your tank, which means that your car will be a bit faster and your tires will last a little bit longer. And I do want to note that some people that are starting in the front might intentionally start on the racing hard tires for that reason. And this can especially be a thing for those in the higher splits in the GT1 leagues. Now let's talk about tire wear, because tire wear is, oh boy, it can either be a very good thing for you or a nightmare if you're in the wrong car. I say that because if you're in the wrong car, Reynolds, your tires will only last 8 laps. But if you're in a car that is pretty good on tire wear, and if you're good with tire wear management, then it is possible to make the racing soft tires last as much as 13 laps. Maybe even more, especially if you're in the BRZ. But that's another story for another day, because I'm not using that car. You will also need to consider your brake balance, because that will affect your tire wear. For example, if you're like me and you're in a Porsche, you can actually see me adjust the brake balance to -5, so all the way to the front of the car, because with the Porsche, it's the rear tires that wear out faster. So to try to ease off of that tire wear from the rear tires, you move the brake balance towards the front of the car. And I would say to move the brake balance to at least -3 for starters. Go to -5 if possible, but do be aware that when you move the brake balance all the way to the front of the car for the Porsche, that can make the car a bit understeery. So that's something you do want to watch out for. And what you also want to watch out for is the tire wear. It's pretty bad in terms of the Porsche, because the Porsche is not the greatest when it comes to tire wear. I mean, it used to be at one point, but unfortunately, this is not one of those days. So you can see that I'm having a bit of a moment right there. Lap 10 is pretty much going to be the most that you can go on the racing soft tires, but you want to make sure that you don't slide the car around too much. Don't completely thrash the tires, because then you'll only make 9 laps in the Porsche. So for those in the Porsche, main goal is 10 laps on the racing soft tires. This will be a little easier to do if you start on the racing hard tires first, because in this one I actually started on the racing soft tires first. And for everyone, you're basically going to be using the racing soft tires until they're just about to hit 100% tire wear. And you can see that my rear left tire is getting really close to hitting that point. And especially for those who have the rear tires wearing out faster, that's where you want to be a bit careful, because once that rear tire starts to go, the car gets pretty sketchy to drive. So that's where you need to be even more careful and just try to nurse the car over to the pit lane. That way you don't end up spinning out just before you pit in. And speaking of pitting in, you want to be careful once you make your way towards the pit stop, because you need to hug the right side of the track on the final turn, as it's really easy to cross the pit line and get yourself a 3-second pit line penalty. So right here, you want to slow down a lot more than what you think, just hugging the right side of the track and then bring yourself into the pit stop. And fuel is not an issue, it's only the tire wears that you need to worry about. So if you started on the racing soft tires, you switch over to the racing hard tires. If you started on the racing hard tires, you switch over to the racing soft tires. And that's pretty much it. Your pit loss for this race is around 23 seconds. And as you come out of the pit stop, just make sure you don't go to the left right away, as you still have to worry about not crossing the pit line. Otherwise, you'll get another 3-second pit line cutting penalty, and you don't want that. And just be careful about anyone that is coming at you really fast. So if they haven't pitted yet, or if they already pit, yeah, you just want to be careful about that, so you don't go to the left right away and before you know it, you accidentally cut someone off and they end up punting you. And when you're starting your racing hards, then just drive a little carefully, because you're going to be on cold racing hard tires, so it's going to feel like you're driving on ice. So just drive a bit more carefully, don't push too much just yet. So give yourself around 1 to 2 laps before you can start to push a bit more. And if you need to, you can adjust the brake balance once again. So you can actually see me adjust the brake balance to 0, as I'm now on the racing hard tires. I don't need to do any sort of tire management on the racing hard tires. At this point, once the tires warm up, just start to push. So let's come on over towards the end of the race for those in GT2 and 3. So this is end of lap number 15. We're around 26.5 minutes into the race. And the racing hard tires, not much tire wear, so don't worry about tire wear for the racing hard tires. It's only the soft tires where you really need to worry about the tire wear. So across the finish line, 26 minutes and 41 seconds for those in GT2 and 3. So around 26.5 minute to 27 minute race for those in GT2 and 3. Pretty straightforward one-stop race for those players. Now for those in GT1, most players should be going for the one stop, unless if your tire wear is catastrophic or if you really want to gamble with a 2-stop. And actually, let's go ahead and go to the end of the race for this run. So this was the one-stop run, where this run was around a 35.5 minute race. Now I do want to point this out that the Porsche is not that good here, because this is a handling car on a high-speed track with high-speed cornering, which is, well, what this car is not the best at. I also say this because I've heard of people doing low 35-minute runs, which makes me really jealous of them. But anyways, so this one-stop run was a 35-minute and 33-second run. So I pitted at the end of lap number 10, as 10 laps is pretty much the most I can do in the Porsche before the tires completely wear out. Now, I want to briefly touch upon the 2-stop. So this is where you do 2 racing soft stints and just try to do as few laps as possible on the racing hard tires. So in this run, I went 9 laps on the soft tires, 10 laps on the soft tires, and then 1 lap on the racing hard tires. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% sold on doing a 2-stop, because here's the thing. You have to do another pit stop, which will cost you around 23 seconds. So in your 2 racing soft stints, you have to find a way to be extremely fast so you can cancel out the other 23-second pit loss, so your second pit stop. And there is a chance that you will have to deal with traffic. So each time that you get stuck behind traffic, that's additional time lost. And that's where the 2-stop can potentially backfire. And it'll be worse if you get stuck behind someone that is on the racing hard tires, especially if you're going through the bus stop or the boot. Good luck trying to get past them through there without costing yourself way too much time, or worse yet, end up in an incident with them. In best case scenario, if you're trying to get past someone on the racing hard tires and you're the racing soft tires, best case scenario, they let you pass by them and you lose very little time. But worst case scenario, which is probably what's going to happen. You get held up by someone on the racing hard tires while you're on the racing soft tires. Worse yet, if they start to defend their spot, and that's going to cost you even more time. However, the only time where I think the two-stop can be doable, kind of like a last option thing, is if your car is catastrophically bad with tire wear. So let's say your car is so bad on tires that it can only do 7 or 8 laps on the racing soft tires. Hopefully that's not the case with your car, but let's say that is the case. Then yeah, that's where you might want to go with the two-stop. That's where the two-stop might be worth it. But again, you have to be careful about the traffic, because if you get stuck behind traffic, that's only going to cost you even more time. And if your car is really good on tires, then I don't think you'll need to worry too much about a two-stop, unless if you're feeling risky and you want to gamble things out. But let's skip on over towards the end of the race. So the two-stop was around 2 seconds slower than the one-stop run. So 35.35 for the two-stop, 35.33 for the one-stop. And again, there's a good chance that you're gonna have to deal with traffic, which can make the two-stop backfire a bit more. So that's something you do have to be careful about if you are thinking about doing the two-stop. And as I mentioned earlier, I think the only time where a two-stop is going to be your option is if your car is catastrophically bad when it comes to tire wear. But if your car is good with tire wear or average, then I would say take a look at the one-stop. And before I go, again, I just want to note that the tire life from each car will vary quite noticeably, because some cars, their soft tires only last 8 laps, whereas others, they can last as long as 13 laps. So you want to get an idea about how long your tires last and then form your strategy around that. But that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you liked this video. If you liked it, you can press the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I have a membership program thing. If you want to further support this channel, it really helps me out. And that's it for this video. So this is Mr. MCA. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.